The Real Jail Experiment, Part 6 of 8. The vote. The halfway point was fire. Today the fire takes another shape. No bottles, no flames, just paper. One sheet, one question, one choice. Who brought the smoke? Who broke the code? Who put the program at risk? The deputies come in sharp, eyes hard, voices clipped. The message is clear. The sheriff has heard about an incident. The freedom of the pod is now on the line, and so the men are faced with a test no shank can solve and no hooch can hide. The anonymous vote. Write it down. Point the finger. Name the one who crossed the line. To the free world it looks simple. Accountability. Transparency. A democratic safeguard inside concrete walls. But to men who live by a code, the line is razor thin. Because in jail, even an anonymous ballot can feel like betrayal. Snitches get stitches. That saying echoes louder than the sound of the pen scratching paper. The pod wrestles with it. Some look around nervously. Some shrug like they don't care. Others fold their arms, daring anyone to write their name down. The very act of voting feels radioactive. You can see it in the way hands hesitate. The men aren't just voting on an incident. They're voting on the unwritten law that governs every pod in America. And here's the paradox. The same men who once hid contraband and broke rules in secret now fear breaking the one code that can't be written down. The Inmate Code. The code that says loyalty means silence, even when silence keeps you chained. What makes this moment electric is that every man knows the truth. If this pod fractures, the doors slam shut. If fear wins, the experiment is over. And yet the pod doesn't collapse into paranoia, because something unexpected happens. One man stands up. He doesn't hide behind a ballot. He doesn't pass the blame. He doesn't leave the weight hanging over the pod. He takes it. He says, "It was me. That's it." A confession, not whispered, not scribbled, spoken. And just like that, the tension dissolves. The problem everyone feared would split the pod never even becomes a problem. Why? Because the truth, when carried openly, disarms fear. It's worth stopping here. Think about how different this is from the normal script. Normally, when an incident happens inside a jail, it sparks a witch hunt, a snitch hunt, men whispering in corners, guards pressing for names, rumors spreading like wildfire. And usually the end game is the same: lockdown, punishment, division. But here the confession resets the whole field. It changes the meaning of power. Because real power isn't hiding behind anonymity. Real power is standing in the open and carrying responsibility. The man who confessed may have thought he was sacrificing himself, but what he really did was free everyone else. The vote that was supposed to divide ends up uniting. The very tool designed to fracture the pod instead becomes a mirror. A reminder that honesty, however costly, is the only currency that spends clean in jail. Sheriff Higgins watches from the outside. This is what trust looks like when it matures. You don't need extra locks. You don't need extra policing. You just need one man willing to stand in the open and remind the rest. Freedom is never about the absence of rules. It's about the presence of responsibility. And the men know it. Because for a moment, the code that said, "Snitches get stitches," gets eclipsed by another code. We rise or we fall together. That's why this episode stings deeper than fire or hooch. Because hooch tempts the body. Fire tempts the hand. But the vote tempts the soul. It asks every man, will you live by fear or by truth? Will you protect your image or protect your brothers? Will you gamble on silence or gamble on light? The pod recalibrates. The doors stay open. The program breathes again. But it's not without scars. Some men still grumble. Some still feel betrayed. The line between loyalty and honesty is one of the hardest to cross in a cage. But the fact remains, the pod is still unlocked, and unlocked is still better than 23-1. Tomorrow, though, the game changes again. Because if today tested their honesty, tomorrow will test their hospitality. New blood, fresh arrivals, fresh tempers, fresh egos. The pod has to decide whether to teach them what freedom looks like or let them drag everyone back into 23-1. And that's the curveball. Because new blood can either strengthen the body or poison it. The Real Jail Experiment continues, Part 7 of 8, New Blood. Tomorrow, though, the game changes again. Because if today tested their honesty, tomorrow will test their hospitality. New blood, fresh arrivals, fresh tempers, fresh egos. The pod has to decide whether to teach them what freedom looks like or let them drag everyone back into 23-1. And that's the curveball. Because new blood can either strengthen the body or poison it. The Real Jail Experiment continues, Part 7 of 8, New Blood.